Your 20s will either make you or set you up to be playing catch up for the rest of your life. Over the last 20 years, I made a lot of mistakes, but also I was focused on the wrong things. I didn't have anyone to guide me. So if you want to prevent yourself from falling into the same trap, here are some of the things I wish I knew in my 20s. Money is really important. Growing up, we didn't have much money, but my parents always told me the same thing. Be grateful for what you've got. You've got your health, food on the table, but also a roof over your head. This had a massive impact on the way I thought about money, thinking it wasn't that important, but also thinking that it was greedy to make money wherever you can. Now, don't get me wrong, you should definitely be grateful for everything you have. Good health is the most important thing. I worked in the NHS for the last 10 years. I worked with people with brain injuries, but also disabilities. In that environment, you can see health is the most important thing. But there's nothing wrong with wanting to be rich, but also successful. Money will buy you freedom and time, but also give you the opportunity to travel the world, have some crazy experiences, help your friends and family, but also help your friends in need. When you're young, you feel like you're gonna stay young forever. All you wanna do is spend time with your friends and your girl. But as time goes on, some friends will leave, that girl may not be in your life, and if you've not focused on laying the foundations, you will get left behind. If you don't want to be a slave till the day you die, you have to understand the importance of money. Wanting to be rich and successful is not a bad thing. You might tell your friends and family that you want to be so rich it's unbelievable. They may laugh at your dreams, but also tell you money's not important, rich people are depressed. One thing I have learned is always the people who don't have money that will tell you money's not important. Money buys you freedom. So the sooner you realize money is an opportunity for you to live the life you want, do the things that you want, it'll give you the ability to help your friends and family, the sooner you can build a plan on how to acquire it. Another thing I wish I did in my 20s was set higher goals. I always thought doctors and lawyers always made the most money. But when I discovered business, I realized what potential is out there. The possibility of earning 20, 30, 50k a month never crossed my mind. What I've come to realize is there is no limit to what you can earn. It doesn't matter what background you've come from, because most millionaires have come from nothing. But what does matter is how high you set your goals. What helped me to come around the idea of anything is possible is when someone said to me, if they've done it, why can't you? If someone's done something, they've already shown you it's possible, but also they will have left a blueprint to help you achieve the same level of a success. So if you believe your goals are too big, maybe they're not big enough, maybe you should be aiming a lot higher. I used to believe I only need a couple of £1,000 a month to survive. But life's not about surviving, it's about experiencing everything the world has to offer, but also setting up your future so you don't struggle. Therefore, if you aim too low, you will never rise above that level. But if you start to set higher goals, your brain will find ways to make anything possible. It's not about living a life of mediocrity, just getting by and surviving. It's about achieving everything you want in this one life you have. The next thing I wish I knew in my 20s is to keep an open mind. Whilst at university in 2012, I was blessed to meet this 5'2" girl called Fudge. She was a little bit crazy, a little bit out there, but she told me to buy Bitcoin. In 2012, I think Bitcoin was between 50 or 90 pounds. And I remember my words that I said to her, are you crazy? Who is gonna use digital currency? She said, just trust me, it's the future. People are gonna be using it to buy stuff, sell stuff. It's gonna be the new thing. So I ended up ignoring her advice and then buying it at 20k and then selling it at 25k. But if I just had a bit more of an open mind, I could have had the opportunity to change my life. But because I was so narrow-minded, so closed-minded to new ideas, I missed the opportunity of a lifetime. So when a new idea or an opportunity comes your way, It may not go with your beliefs. You may not think it works. You have to be open to all new ideas if you want to achieve great things in life. You've got to look outside the box, outside your social circle, because the opportunities out there are endless. Therefore, I always look at every new idea as a possibility to change my life. Another thing I wish I knew in my 20s is to not give up early. Giving up is the easiest thing to avoid pain but also failure. But what hurts even more, looking back knowing that you give up an opportunity because you were so afraid to fail, to look bad, but also you was too worried what other people were gonna say. I had a bad habit of quitting when things got tough. After my first business failure, it took me a bit of time to recover. When I set up my second business, things got a little bit hard. I ended up quitting that because I didn't want to look like a failure or deal with the disappointment again. But I didn't realize I was training my brain up to become a quitter. The crazy thing is, men don't lose because they're not good enough. They lose because they quit too early, they end up giving up. But the thing is, once you quit once, to quit the next thing becomes a lot easier, creating a quitter mentality. Once I realized how quitting was affecting my momentum but also my personal life, I implemented some small changes to help rewire my brain. I started to plan my week to ensure I did all the tasks I needed to do. If I was going to go on the treadmill for 30 minutes, I would make sure I would not come off a second earlier. If I was going to fast during the day, I would make sure I would only eat during those times. If I started something like a book, I would ensure I finished it. Even in the gym on that last set, I tried pushing out those few extra reps before quitting. When you push past the setbacks, the pain, the boredom, you're rewiring your brain to tell it can do anything. But as soon as you start quitting everything, whether it's your diet, the gym, reading the book, your self-improvement journey, building your confidence, you're chipping away at your brain, telling it can't do anything, building a quitter mentality. Another thing I wish I knew in my 20s is the importance of consistency. This is especially important when it comes to your physical health. As you get older, you will get a little bit fatter, you will get a little bit chubbier. Building muscle will be a lot harder. But if you consistently go to the gym in your 20s, you will build an insane physique. So as you get older, you will be able to maintain that physique. But also, if you ever get injured or need to take time off, it won't affect you that much. But if you've been going to the gym on and off like I did in my 20s, it's a lot harder to build that insane physique. But also, if you get injured, you lose your gains a lot quicker. This same principle applies to your business. You've got to be consistent, but also turn up on the days you don't want to. There will be days where you don't make sales. There will be days where you lose money. But you have to be consistent, but also turn up on the days you don't want to. Because if you're not consistent with anything in life, you will never achieve much. That's why consistency is probably one of the most underrated things. But if you turn up every day, make small improvements in your life, your business, your health, you will see massive results after a period of time. Therefore, you have to be consistent in your 20s. Turn up on the days you don't want to. Force yourself to do the things you don't want to. There will be times where everyone else is partying and you have to stay consistent on your goals. But if you make a little bit of sacrifice now, it will definitely pay off in the future. The next thing I wish I knew in my 20s is learning never stops. We all assume when we leave school, education has finished. Learning stops, we know everything, and we just go out there and we make it. But unfortunately, that doesn't happen. The real education happens when you leave school. In 2010, when I set up my first business, it failed. It failed because I didn't bother to educate myself, but also didn't bother to learn. The truth was, I thought, I've been in school, I know it all. So all I need to do is build a website, put some products on there, and the customers will come. But unfortunately, that didn't happen and the business failed. If I just spent some time to learn about the business, see what things I needed to do, but also the things I didn't need to do, I could have saved loads of money, but also potentially have made that business work. But because I thought I knew it all and learning stops as soon as you leave school, that business failed. Therefore, you should take every opportunity you can to learn something new. Now, you guys are so lucky you have YouTube. There is so much information on there. So you need to start learning, but also consuming with intent. Don't just be consuming brain rot information, going on feeds, scrolling for hours, because you will end up losing days, if not months, or even years, because time flies so fast. But if you spend every opportunity to learn, you will not only be able to deal with things a lot better, you will be able to achieve better results when you try the things you want. If you think life is hard in your 20s, it's even harder in your 40s. Therefore, maximize your 20s and learn as much as possible. The more content you consume, the more things you learn, the better decisions you'll be able to make. Therefore, don't give up learning. Learn whenever you can. The next thing I wish I did less of in my 20s was chasing women. Now, women are the most beautiful thing out there, but I focus too much on getting women, but also spending time with women. When you meet the right girl, there's nothing better than spending the weekend with her, chilling and relaxing. But this will cost you a lot of time, but also take away your focus from what's important. There's three main problems when you focus too much on women. Number one, it steals you of your time. Why would you want to work on your business when you've got a nice girl to spend the weekend with? If you're spending too much time chasing women and partying on the weekends, you won't have the energy or the time to work on your business. The second thing, it drains you of your finances. If you're spending money on dates or going out on the weekend, you can't invest that money into yourself. Thirdly, it steals your energy. Your sexual energy is one of the most important fuels you can use to drive you to do great things. If you're depleting yourself 2 times a day or once a day, whenever you find that opportunity, you will never have the energy, but also the focus to do the things that you want. I'm not saying you should ignore women, then get to an age where you can't hold a woman or get a woman. But what I am saying is, in your 20s, it shouldn't be your main focus. You should be focusing on building your business, building yourself, building a life that you want. Because when you become more successful, you become more attractive. Therefore, you don't need to chase women. The women will come to you. So the next thing you need to do in your 20s is get a financial education. Back in 2008, we had a massive financial crisis in the UK where everything collapsed and interest rates went to zero. Now, why is this important? This meant money was practically free. You could borrow money from the bank, but also get properties and put them on rent. So many people picked up cheap properties, but also have a portfolio of passive income because they took advantage of the financial crisis. Back then, I didn't even know this happened. I only learned this in 2020, 12 years later, that we had a massive financial crisis in 2008. You need to learn about the financial system, but also how it works so you can take advantage of it. I'm talking about where money comes from, interest rates, how to borrow cheap money, how to make money without money. So the sooner you start to learn about money and how it's important, but also how you can make it work for you, the sooner you can take advantage of the system to make as much money as possible. Being the youngest of 8 kids, I always felt like I had something to prove. So when my first business failed in my 20s, I felt like a failure for so long. But I've come to realize there is no success without failure, and every failure holds key lessons that will help you in the future. Therefore, when you're in your 20s, don't be afraid to fail. Take as many risks as you can, because every failure does contain valuable experiences but also lessons. But when you fail in your 20s, it's a lot easier to recover. When you're 40 and 50, it becomes a lot harder. So don't be afraid to try new things in your 20s, because that is the time where you can gain valuable experiences that will help you later in life. Also, I don't use the word failure anymore. All I've had is valuable experiences throughout my life, and they're helping me today. So I don't see any experience as a negative. Take every opportunity you can, but most importantly, don't be afraid to fail. Now, if you want to know one of the biggest things holding men back, you might want to check the next video out.